All right, everybody. Hey, you got to do it twice. All right, everybody. If we'll get settled in here, we'll get going. I know it's a busy day. We got hundreds of bills across this great capital to vote out today, so we can get ready for crossover. The first thing we're going to do today, Chairman Jasperse has to vote on an important bill, and he'll be back in here. But we've got to approve the 10-year plan that was presented at the joint meeting last week with the Senate. At due time, I'll take a motion.
A motion approved.
First by Ms. Taylor, second by Representative Chairman Corpet. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have had it, guys. Good job, nice work. We'll move on to, I tell you what, Vance, if you don't mind, will you come up here and I'll present my House Bill 577 while Jasper's is, and then he can come present 588. Who's the second?
All right. Representative, if you'll go ahead and present your House Bill 577, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman. All right, so House Bill 577 is just a DOT cleanup bill. Simply basically does three things. We're going to start with the first one. The first one in section 1 is currently we need to put the language in there that if a bid requires a guarantee, then they have to accept one. But if they don't, then they don't. Basically, we just have to clarify that there's some projects that the DOT that they do that don't require guarantees. So currently it's a little hazy on whether or not they currently they have to require it, but a lot of projects don't require it. So it's just clarifying that if it's a smaller project that they don't need these guarantees on, that they don't have to get a guarantee. And what that does, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically it's going to save money because these things cost money and add money to projects. And if it's a smaller project, it would allow more competitors to bid on it and save the DOT money. And then section 2 is 2 and 3. I'm sorry, section 3 is about airports. So currently there's concern on airports, how to address issues when they have an airport that's not acting correctly. So basically, these are not your private airports, but these are public airports, and I'll read the line on 29, as evidenced by the existence of a current and approved FAA administrative form 7480-I or any successor application. So basically it's saying these public airports that have chosen to be public airports, we're just updating some protocol to address issues if we have an issue with an airport that has had an issue basically in their application, and if they are operating without a valid license and how the department is going to deal with that. And so there's some language in there about cease and desist orders. And then also after 20 days, there's an issue of getting the Attorney General involved, and then some civil penalties of $1,000 a day that they're operating in violation of the cease and desist order. So it's just basically saying, look, if we've got an airport, we don't the GDOT doesn't like the way they're having to address it right now. So just clarifying the process, making sure that they have ability to hold these airports. What's the word I'm looking for? Sorry. Hold these airports accountable. Thank you. Sorry, long day. So anyway, I keep hearing all kinds of crazy words in my head. But anyway, so it's just a way for them to address an issue, clarify that. And then in section 4, basically it says that if there's a sign in an urban or residential area that's less than 30 miles an hour, then it can be that speed limit. But otherwise, we're going to assume that no signs that the speed limit in the urban and residential area is 30 miles an hour. So pretty simple bill. I'll take any questions.
All right, we do have a few questions, and that can be for the representative or any of the voices in his head.
There's a lot of those, sir.
But we'll go with Representative Williams right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. I haven't found it in the bill. It might be in here, though. When you said no bid necessary, how small? You said on small bids. What's the dollar amount that you consider not necess, that it's not necessary to bid?
Yeah, and Josh can tell you on that, but it's definitely the smaller bids like cutting the grass, cutting trees, et cetera.
But that's why you break it down, because you spend about $35 million a year cutting grass now.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, what it does is it specifies that today all bids require a bid guarantee. That's just a guarantee either in the form of a check or a bond that the bid documents they're giving us are valid, that it's a legitimate bid. So we are not spending time evaluating a bid that the contractor is not going to be able to stand by. So what the bill says is for capital construction and capital maintenance projects, that bid proposal is mandatory. For like routine maintenance projects that are done of our districts, it's optional. So the department would make a decision based off of the lower dollar amount routine maintenance, where the risk of someone giving you a bid that they're not going to stand by and walk away is lower. We would waive it so that we increase the number of potential participants, small businesses that might not be in the position, or it's difficult for them to write us a check that we cash until we go through the bids. Then we write them a check and send it back if they aren't awarded. So the aim is just to open it up for some of these small businesses that was part of the goal with the routine maintenance ITB's invitation to bid, was expand this work out to smaller businesses.
Okay.
Before we move on to the next question, just for reference, Joshua Waller, DOT, thank you for being here.
My apologies.
All right, we'll go to Representative Frye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does this on line 141,
Bear with me.
it's the magic 30 miles an hour speed limit I hear about constantly. Does this added line, unless otherwise designated by appropriate signs, allow municipalities to lower that speed limit?
Yes, I believe it does. That's the way I read it.
Like, so they can say whatever speed limit they want, they can post that sign and it can be.
That's what I read. Absolutely. Go ahead, but Josh, you can clarify it.
So they're allowed, so you're still required to have to do a traffic engineering study under the code section to set what the speed limit is. But under that list of maximum speed limits, that is the only one that doesn't include or as posted. So it's just cleaning up that one, that one to say or as posted. It's really more of a cleanup to reconcile it with already existing statute about maximum speed limits.
I got you. I've just gotten a lot of conversation with my local municipality about the arduous process it takes to go through and lower speed limits in residential areas. Hoping this could address that.
So that, yeah, this and there's other statutes dealing with the process for lowering those speed limits.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the department will continue to speed those processes up as we get more and more down the technological road that we're headed down.
All right, we got a couple more. Chairman Smith.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Does that apply to state routes or is that applying to city and county roads?
All roads.
All.
All right, we're going to see. I think that's all the questions we have in the room. Anyone on Zoom? We've got a few joining us. All right, seeing no questions there, what's the pleasure of the committee? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
you very much.
Going to turn this back over to the chairman.
I'm glad to be one of those voices.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman and Secretary, for helping us so much right then. This technology of Zoom and voting is wonderful. A year ago, who would have thunk it? But, it's really allows us to get to multiple meetings and get things done. I sure appreciate y'all stepping in. There are more folks here right now. I want you to introduce you to Naomi Vate. Naomi, stand up. She is our intern in our office, a North Georgia college student fixing to graduate. She told me the other day, yay. She has no more fees to pay, which I think is the one. We were talking about a Board of Regents bill the other day, and she goes, I don't know, I'm not paying any more fees. And I think that's just great. Maybe when she goes to law school, she'll start that again, but we sure appreciate it. Thank you, members, for being here and on Zoom. I just want to, just a couple of comments. I appreciate the dedication of this committee. Last couple of weeks, I've just done a real deep looking in different subject, met so many people, and looking at past work that y'all have done as it relates to current work that we're going to do this year and the next few years. It's amazing. I appreciate y'all's, you guys are into detail and have worked really, really hard. Because we're moving, Georgia into when I was just being silly this morning, I called it the thrill zone. The people that I talk to in the hallways and the advocates for different things and transportation, it's exciting. And we're the leader in America right now, especially in funding and doing other things. And we're going to continue to do that. What I'll do, I'm going to step aside and let Vice Chairman Kasey come up here, and then I'm going to present a really step forward. Baby, we're going to get it on. And, House Bill 588. And I'll just go up there to the podium and Vice Chairman take it.
All right, Chairman, whenever you're ready,
Thank
we're ready
you.
to hear House Bill 588.
Well, the House Bill 588, it said thrill zone. It's kind of a silly term, but this is the beginning of it, of what we're going to look at in the future. And it's really a direct relation to the work that this committee and the Freight and Logistics Committee did over the past 2 years, or really this past year, in that report. If you haven't taken time to look at the report, you need to. It's thick, it's dense, there's a lot to it. And what I've been doing on the weekends when I have time is going back and listening to old testimony to make sure I understood what people are saying and how that they would like for us to move forward. It'd be exciting. So I should rename it, call it the Freight Logistics Public-Private Partnership Implementation Act. What a mouthful. But what this bill does, it puts into law key recommendations from that Commission on Freight and Logistics and helps us take the next steps to improve our freight and logistics infrastructure. For instance, the commission identified the reality there's a lot of freight infrastructure that's not owned and operated by the state, but where improvements can significantly benefit the state and the general traveling public. An example just happened the other day is a construction of a rail siding to store stopped train cars to prevent the same train cars from blocking vehicular crossing for hours and hours. Now, if we could do that, it would save us a tremendous amount of money in building bridges. We can create this partnership world, and that's what this bill does. In 588 in section 1, would amend the current freight program under GDOT to create a well-defined public benefit definition to allow the investment in infrastructure not owned by the state, but which could benefit the state and the public. What we've done is mirror the language from the federal statute that's been used by the U.S. Department of Transportation for years. One example of a substantial public benefit defined in the bill is the reduction of public expenditures due to improved transportation efficiency or infrastructure preservation. So a smaller investment through the partnership with the private sector to build that rail siding that eliminates us to build multiple bridges, to eliminate block crossings is an example of a substantial public benefit. And there are many of the other ideas that come through there. You look at sections 2 through 6, these are updating GDOT and SERDA's public-private partnership authority. These sections make it clear that they have the authority to do P3s. Another recommendation of our commission. We're not creating a new state authority for P3s. We're going to use our existing successful transportation entities that can do multimodal projects now. While making sure we have the right statutory framework and the authority to develop and deliver these type projects is very important. It's equally important to provide funding to get these potential projects moving. And that's what you'll see in sections 7 and 8. They're critically important and represent a logical down payment on more funding for freight and logistics infrastructure. Chairman Powell's constitutional amendment that we passed this past year would allow us and help us to dedicate current state sales tax on diesel fuel purchased by locomotives to fund fuel and freight logistic projects. So House Bill 588, though it's short, is very powerful because it's going to give us the authority and the funding to start tackling critical freight and logistic projects throughout the state, including our rural areas where we know the issue of block crossings can be bad and will only get worse as freight and our success continue to grow. Freight growth and economic growth is vital to our state, but we got to tackle these challenges, and this bill does that. And Section 9 at the end implements a really simple but important change recommended by the commission, and that was to add the GDOT commissioner to the Georgia Ports Authority. So in summary, it's big, it's short, but it's a powerful move to help us solve Georgia's transportation problems. And I look forward to working with y'all on that. And this bill is a crucial step in that process. And this bill is technical. I think you'll agree. Maybe Ms. Jenna is online. She is online. If we have like technical legal questions, she'll be certainly able to answer us, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that if y'all may have.
Questions, just hit your button, guys. All right, number 8, Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe expound just a little bit on the lines 252, starting there, talking about the sale of fuel and just kind of explanation on what that money will be used for.
Okay. Oh, just on diesel.
Yeah.
So go into their general fund, just into a lockbox, I guess we could say for them. Yeah, I envision it for safety and railroad crossings as we talked about it. I think the locomotive lines, railroad lines would like that, but they'll be able to use it for any project. They'll be able to save it if there's a particular large project or a small project. But it'll give them the autonomy and ability to act quickly.
That's good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Williams, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your presentation. It's very ambiguous, looks good. Have you got any idea over a term period, what kind of potential costs or money are we looking at spending over, say, the next 10 years as we address these projects? Have we looked at the cost? And I know you're talking about the excise tax, but have you got a thumb on what kind of money?
Just on the excise tax on locomotive, it's about $10 million a year that would come from the diesel sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not much.
I know, because these are some big projects you're talking about.
Yeah, but
That's good study money, but I'm talking
Yeah,
about finishing
you're
money.
right. And I don't know that answer
Okay.
at this point. I think GDOT may have a better answer on future plans. You've got the 10-year plan right there
Yeah.
that looks at a lot of that. But Representative Williams, I just want to say, in addition to that, it's been really exciting to listen to some of the people who come to talk to me who are on the freight logistics, looking at different ways to fund this.
Mhm.
It's tremendously expensive. I mean, the projects that we need to do to make truck traffic safer, the parking areas, and to let them spend the night safely or time out safely. All this is tremendously expensive. So we need partners, and we need this public-private partnership to have partners. And that's why I think it's good.
I don't have any doubt it's good, and I appreciate it. I just wanted to get a handle because it's kind of like the dowry system. When you're looking for a partner, the partner likes to kind of know what kind of money it's costing the partner up.
I would say, sir, it's a lot of zeros.
Okay. So you ain't looking for the girl next door. It's got
No.
to be a well-set partner.
It's a lot of zeros.
Any further questions?
Singleton.
What number? All righty. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? All right. Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing this bill. I'm one of your rookies on the committee, so I apologize. I have a just two questions real quick.
Sure.
One was the section 1. Is there the requirement for the public benefit? Is there and maybe this is something that Joshua could answer, but is there a for that public benefit anywhere in the code? Is there like a dollar for dollar requirement? Is there a monetary criteria for public benefit, or is it subjective?
I don't know of one, and I've looked through some of the code. Is there one? Please go ahead.
I know it's a random question. I apologize. It's just
Well, Mr. Chairman, like the chairman said, the underlying bill mirrors off of a federal statute in defining public benefit. I don't believe that code section has a prescription around dollar amounts, but it provides criteria about what would have to occur for there to be a substantial benefit, so that you could have that kind of partnership between the state and infrastructure that's not owned by the state.
okay. Thank you. And then just my other question, Mr. Chairman, was just the I believe I'm tracking the Section 8. I think we're talking about the 4% diesel, 4% tax we pay on diesel, right, for the locomotives and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to verify that I understand it correctly, that lines 269 through 272, that gives the ability, as the gentleman was talking earlier about the dollar amount not being huge, relatively speaking, but that would give the ability for that sum to carry over year to year. And so it could actually accrue, if I'm understanding it correctly, if they had a bigger project. And I agree with that provision. I think that's really smart. I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. And then the second part of that is, I'm assuming that would go in that budget line item that we have now in the budget that currently doesn't have any money in there, but we have the line item. So I'm hoping I'm putting the pieces together right.
Yeah, I don't know about the line item. We'll have to ask Chairman Perkle about that, but he'd be glad to, if he's on, he can answer that. But yes, it does accrue.
Awesome.
And you're right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I think
appreciate
on
it.
your first question too, there's the flexibility in there. Representative, there are going to be projects I can envision down the road where it might be 50-50, 60-40, 30-70. They've got the flexibility, and and there's the oversight that we have here to oversee.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate
Yes,
it,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Just real quick for the next question. I do remember you guys presenting maybe last year or a couple years ago about when we invest $1 in transportation projects, it brings like $1.89 worth of economic development, or so there is that piece as well. And I think you're correct on the line item. We passed that bill last year that created the line item, and now we're funding it. These train companies have been paying this tax for years and years and years, and this is an opportunity to let them see some benefit and also help Georgians at the same time. So,
Yes, sir.
number 16.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going back to what Representative Singleton said, line 26, I guess that's in there because of our constitutional issue with gratuities.
Absolutely. So we're defining it very clearly in code. So what that is. Yeah.
So basically, in the code that you're using to define it is already existing in the federal code for
Yes.
their gratuities issues, right?
Right. Which would be similar.
Yeah.
But it's effective. And that's what I think. But we
Cool.
talked about it earlier, Representative, that was, we felt the most direct way of addressing this issue.
Oh, man, I love that. I just wondered if that talk to the AG's office about it if they're,
No, I haven't.
okay.
All right, guys, looks like there's no more questions. At the proper time, I'll hear a
Got-
motion.
Got comments.
Oh, hold on, we got people to talk. Sorry, I apologize. So I don't have a list. Do you have a list of speakers? Did we have any questions online? I forgot to ask that question as well. Sorry, this Zoom is not for me. All right. No questions. So we'll go straight to the speakers. We're going to start with Craig Camuso with CSX. Come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In respect to the fact that we have a member of the Freight and Logistics Commission who served on that, would it be okay if we let Mr. Skinner speak before we did? Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. In the sake of time, we want to save you all the, you're the one that's, the rest of us got to be here all day. So absolutely, you go right ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Brad Skinner. I'm a member of the board of directors of Omnitrax, which is a short line railroad holding company throughout the country and a real estate developer. We have 4 properties, short line railroads within Georgia, and we're also investing heavily in conjunction and in relation to the Georgia Port Authority in Effingham County with multiple million square foot warehouses and other improvements. I was honored to be appointed by David Ralston to this commission and to, over the course of the work, to be appointed then by the 2 co-chairs to serve on a subcommittee with Russell McMurray, Commissioner, and with Griff Lynch. And that subcommittee studied the needs facing Georgia in terms of capital development to replace older capital structures you've been so successful the last 60 years, as well as to build the new kinds of structures that will maintain quality of life for Georgians and also keep you in a position to be the number 1 economic developer and business developer in the nation. My background has been in a lot of public-private partnerships. I'm an old guy, I'm about 73 now, but I've had a lot of these over my life. And I've seen what they can do in terms of helping municipalities as well as counties and states to keep up with the demands as their populations continue to grow. And so I'm here just to support House Bill 588. We took a lot of time looking at the capital needs. They're substantial over the next 30 years. And with Russell and with Griff, we were able to, I think, develop a good subcommittee report, which has led to the development of this legislation. I just rise in support of this piece of legislation.
I'll probably take any question. Anybody have questions? Up?
Just really a comment. Mr. Skinner, it's been
What number, my man?
19.
That's a good job.
Mr. Skinner, it's been great to meet and sit down with you the other day. But could you, since you're a member of the committee, could you answer Representative Williams? You were looking at, you looked at the big pictures, the amount of dollars that we're talking about down the road. Could you address that?
I don't have the priority issues yet. You're going to have to all decide on that as a legislative body, as a DOT and the ports. But you're looking at billions of dollars of investment that's going to be required to preserve your position as a very effective business community and a growth-oriented community, and to maintain quality of life. As we said earlier, so I think the chairman said, you can build a lot of very efficient railroad structures, but you need overpasses, you need underpasses to avoid the kind of congestion that would occur at railroad crossings. The state, again, is so fortunate that you are business friendly and people are going to continue to do here. And oh, by the way, you have an electric utility in Georgia Power that seems to be pretty solid. So I think that to answer your specific question, sir, I think you asked about cost.
I know it's billions, but how many B's you got behind?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, our subcommittee stated that over 30 years, we're looking at about 140 billion. And so you do the math on that, spread it out by 30, it's substantial. Again, the stakes are high. You want to continue to be the place where people want to invest and to grow. And you're doing a lot of the things with fiber optics, training your poorer sections of Georgia with digital training through your community colleges. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can be propelled and accelerated through this kind of legislation for the benefit of all Georgians. But cost, I mean, you have money out there. You've got so much money out there that needs to be placed. The chairman and I were talking about this yesterday, that, you know, you and I, most of us have savings account that pay us what, 0.5%? And the reason that is there's so much money out there, and fund managers need to place that money if they're going to retain their employment. So there's a lot of folks that I believe would love to talk to Georgia and look at the broader pictures and how to invest that capital properly. Does that help, sir?
That's it. I appreciate it. You look like you don't know where to look for that money, sir.
I would love, I'd be honored to help you all move forward. Any other questions?
I don't think so. We thank you so much for being here. And just as a Republican, I'm a big fan of public-private partnerships. I think it's a great way to, I think, bring the efficiencies of the private sector into the public world. So we appreciate what you do. And I really enjoyed your presentation here in the past as well. So
Thank you so much.
thank you, sir. Well, thank you. Thank you, Representative. I appreciate that very much. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Skinner. All right, we'll go straight to Mr. Craig Camuso now, sir. Come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Craig Camuso. I'm with CSX Transportation. You're going to hear from myself and Mr. Connor Poe from Norfolk Southern here over the next couple of minutes with regard to our support for House Bill 588. I'd like to thank Chairman Jasperse for the work that he's done in his short time as the transportation chair, but he's made tremendous strides already. So thank you, sir. And as well, thank you to Mr. Skinner and the members of the Freight and Logistics Commission. We have testified several times in front of that commission over the last couple of years on the growth of the railroad industry and as well as specifically Section 7 and 8, which is what I'm going to talk about of this bill, which would move the diesel fuel tax over from the general budget into the DOT budget. And Representative Singleton was correct. It would go into that line item that you passed last year. I'd also like to thank Representative Smith, who a couple of years ago had introduced legislation regarding an exemption of this diesel fuel tax. What we invest, our two companies combined, about $200 million a year in the state of Georgia on railroad maintenance. That's just to keep the railroads up and running. So and as we look at what is going out of the ports, as Mr. Skinner referred to, and the amount of freight that's going to be moving through the state here in the coming years, we think is a great opportunity for us to partner with the state to identify projects that will provide a public benefit for Georgia citizens. And Representative Williams, as you said, it's not going to be cheap. Chairman Jasperse talked about $10 million a year. By our estimations, that is correct. But this is money that eventually, as that it builds up, will go to things such as extending rail sidings. We know that we have block crossing issues in several of your districts, to help with grade separations, as well as help to maintain and improve grade crossings, that vehicles go over. So we are in full support of this bill. We thank you very much for bringing it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I see no questions. Connor Poe with Norfolk Southern.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Connor Poe. I'm with Norfolk Southern, the newly relocated hometown railroad, I would just say now in Atlanta. I also speak as the chairman of the Georgia Railroad Association, which makes up both the Class 1s and as well as many short line operators, as well as vendors to the railroad industry. We are in support of House Bill 588. To us, what it does is especially on the P3 side, is that it removes the complexity that we all that my company faces and others now when we want to do a public-private partnership with any of the state agencies, whether it be the port, Georgia Department of Economic Development, GDOT, any of these agencies. So what this does was it would remove a lot of the complexities that we have now. Listen, we want to invest money in Georgia. My company does, CSX does. We want to invest in Georgia. But right now, with the current setup with the gratuities clause and other issues, it makes it extremely complex to make these investments. We do it, but I'll give you an example. Just simple siding extension outside of Savannah, the first siding outside of Savannah, the port, where most all this traffic is coming through. We were doing a 7,000-foot extension, partnering with Georgia Ports Authority. It took us 5.5 years from the day they got the money at the port for us to put this together. 5.5 years. Well, in that time, we needed to extend it even more with more and more growth. So now we have to go back in and extend it even more from where we actually just got done, because it took us 5 years. So these projects that was just for the deal. That wasn't for the construction of the project. That took 1 year. So this would remove a lot of the complexity that's around that. And we are we're definitely 100% support of the bill. And we look forward to working with the chairman as it moves forward and the committee. Any questions?
I see no questions.
Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Neil Herring with the Sierra Club.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee. This is a very interesting bill, and I want to draw your attention to two portions of it. Lines, section 1, basically. Line 23, the commissioner shall make a determination whether such expenditures is ample consideration for a substantial public benefit in compliance with the Georgia gratuity language. The federal government has no gratuity language, so any copying of federal statute does not help you in Georgia, maybe. My suggestion here, right now, gratuities are determined by the Georgia Supreme Court. They get litigated right up on through. Y'all are in a hurry here. I think everybody agrees that this is urgent. Litigation and financing do not mingle well. I would suggest that y'all get the commissioner to work with the Georgia State Finance and Investment Commission, people who understand gratuities better than anybody else in state government, and get their concurrence before the commissioner makes these decisions so that you don't wind up with your projects tied up in litigation. This is just a friendly suggestion. We put that same language in the reservoir bill that Mike Cohn passed a number of years ago, and it paid off very well. It was able to, problems were avoided because GSFIC was able to draw bright lines, what you can do and what you can't do. I just think it's a cautionary feature, and I strongly recommend y'all consider it. Talk to legislative counsel. I mean, that's going to be much better advice than I've got, but I really think it's a good idea. The other part is a little bit more complicated, but equally troublesome. The motor fuel tax, including locomotive fuel, is right now dedicated in the Constitution. Y'all are on page 11, section 8. Y'all are taking that money and moving it into something that's not strictly roads and bridges. I'm afraid that you're trying to rededicate the money in a statute, and you have to do it in a constitutional amendment. You might be able to get this stuff inserted into HB 511, and it might work that way. But I don't believe your statute will allow you to take dedicated road and bridge money and put it into something that may or may not be roads and bridges. That concludes my remarks. Thank you. Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any comments, thoughts from the committee? Or I guess we'll go back to Chairman Jasperse for.
So I'll be quick, committee. This is an opportunity to lead. And this is what this committee has done. It's what the House has done in transportation. And because it's just what we do. And I ask for your favorable consideration and passing this bill, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll see for a motion. We got a first, we got a second in the corner. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
How we looking online? We got some thumbs up online. All opposed? The ayes have it. Moves on to rules. Be sure to get your form filled out.
Real quickly before we adjourn, we will have a committee meeting on Tuesday to specifically do the resolutions that all of y'all are being asked about. We don't know a time yet. We just kind of figured it out. It's going to be in the afternoon for sure. And we don't know when we're going to be here, but we'll be here on Tuesday. And so we'll have us a meeting to do that. We'll have a full committee meeting right afterwards because we'll pass it out to move that along. One thing I did want to just bring out too, someone reminded me, we also have the short line tax credit that's in Ways and Means. And that will absolutely help short line railroads. That's an extension for 10 years. It's in committee today. And Chairman Blackman has put that into a group of 4 or 5 tax credits that are going together. And just to let you know what else is going on in that. Anybody else have anything for the good of the committee? Everything, Mr. Al? How about anybody else? Okay, well, at the end of that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.